Welcome to another edition of the TMG Intelligence Series. This week we are joined by Wendy LaBrum of Wendy LaBrum Interiors. Wendy, thanks a lot for your time here.
Thank you for having me.
So everyone tuning in this week, big holiday, family visiting, people going in and out of homes. We're talking about interior design this week. Wendy, tell us about your company and all that you guys got going on.
So I started my company about 11 years ago, and we are a small residential firm in Chicago. We do lots of large-scale new construction homes, all residential. We do a lot of historic renovation. We do remodels, so projects big and small and everything in between.
And interior design is so big these days, just in terms of all the way across the board, how it's filtered down from all the way from, like you said, the high-end residential all the way down to, you have studio apartments now that have design elements. Where do you think this kind of came from, and where do you see this space kind of going?
I think so much of that has come from the internet. Design is accessible to everyone now in a way that it didn't used to be. It used to be for people to purchase their own things. It was either through an interior designer or whatever catalog came to the house. Now there's amazing websites out there that everybody can access to find what they like and to find pieces to purchase and to learn how to put it together. So it really is a lot more accessible to everyone than it used to be. And I think that is in part a good and a bad thing, because while good design is very accessible, so is bad design. But
excuse us here, this is live, obviously. We have the dog wanting to be interviewed as well. You're gonna have to just hold on there 1 second here, and we will get rid of that. Okay, so we're live here. We're gonna keep going. All right, Wendy. So back to interior design. Just kind of getting into it, as you said, it's accessible. People can see it. Where are people accessing it? I mean, my wife spends a lot of time on Instagram, on Pinterest.
Exactly.
Where
Instagram,
is this happening?
Pinterest, House. There's so many resources out there on the internet, and companies have great. Reputable design firms have great blogs. There's countless resources to access for people to be able to figure out what they like.
And from your experience, you kind of have these days boutique hotels. Has that demand or that style come from the high-end hospitality, or is that kind of infiltrated from the residential design thinking, if that makes sense?
I would imagine it goes both ways. I think when people stay in a hotel, sometimes people want to feel like they're in their own home. They want to feel as comfortable there as they would in their own space. And so I think the different boutique hotels have cued into that and have started making rooms more unique. And you get away from the kind of old school big box hotel aesthetic a bit more. And it's also, there's more competition in the hotel space. And so I think boutique hotels have to do more to differentiate themselves from the major hotel brands out there.
And that differentiation comes from the design.
Exactly.
Very cool,
exactly.
Very cool. So then just talking about the way you work with clients, you said it's accessible these days. What's your process? I mean, we're in the video space, so usually our clients can kind of show us a video here or there. You're probably looking at photos that people are giving you, but like, how do you walk clients through the process almost so they know where they're going to end up?
And honestly, every client is different. Some clients come to us and they have an entire binder of images of things that they like, and they say, I want this, and I want this, and I like this. And it's our job to take all of these myriad of ideas that they have and come up with a cohesive way in which we can give them the things that they know they want, as well as things that they had never thought of, and put this together in a way that's cohesive and beautiful and functional and practical. And then we have other clients that have no idea what they want. And so it's our job to kind of pull it out of them and to take them through a little bit of an education process and kind of a diagnostic process at the same time to figure out who they are and what they like and what they're drawn to and how different things make them feel. And so that process we tend to put in a little bit more time up front to do that education and sort of research stage of the process. And then from there, really, we get down to specifics. And a lot of it comes from the bones of the structure, whether it's an old building that we're rehabbing or if it's something new. And from there, we study the architecture and the interior architecture, and then from there we get down to furnishings and fabrics and textiles and finishes.
It's a process.
And so many things go into it, and I'm sure, as you know from your wife, so many things go into creating a cohesive
Yeah.
space.
You mentioned you've had this company up for now over 10 years. How did you kind of navigate that career path as we've been talking with other guests here, and everyone has a unique story?
Yeah, and I actually kind of took a bit of a meandering path to design. I studied interior design in undergrad, ultimately decided to major in English because I thought I was going to go to law school. After college, I decided I didn't want to go to law school, and I found my way into PR for a few years. As you know, every good English major coming out of college needs to find a real job to make money instead of just waxing poetic on literature all the time. But so I spent a few years in PR. I really enjoyed it. I worked with some design-related clients in architecture and in the bath space, which I enjoyed, but ultimately I wasn't passionate about marketing. I never was going to be. So I ended up moving to London in 2006 for my husband's job, and I spent about 18 months studying the architecture and the art and the history and everything that Europe has to offer. We split time between London and Madrid. And during that time, I really decided that I wanted to build a business around something that I was passionate about. And that was always going to be architecture and design. And so while I was there, a good friend of mine who was working for a commercial design firm here in Chicago also wanted to go out on her own, so we made a plan to partner up. I had a little bit of a marketing background, she had a commercial design background, and so we started the business in 2007. She consequently moved to LA for her husband's job, so we went back and forth for a while, and ultimately it made sense to separate.
Yeah, but you mentioned that you weren't passionate about marketing, but you've done a really good job of building your own personal brand. Your Instagram has over 11,000 followers. How do you guys kind of strategize that, and how have you been able to cultivate that audience?
Well, thank you. I don't feel like I'm a marketing whiz by any stretch of the imagination. I find that I really just post pictures of things that are inspiring to me, and it's all our own content. I generally don't post pictures of other people's work because I like to showcase our own. So I post pictures of things that we've done that I love, that I, am proud of. In addition to, work that's in process. And I feel like if it's something that aesthetically I love and appreciate, then my followers will too. And anybody who is into interior design probably follows a number of different design accounts, and they want to be inspired by what they see. And so we try to just put out content that is inspiring.
Yeah, and you guys do a really great job at it. And then
Thank
just
you.
in terms of the design community, there's a lot of work that goes into this. And how do you kind of juggle all of the creativeness with the operations of your business, with having, children and a personal life?
I would say I do it very imperfectly. I have this conversation with a lot of working mom friends of mine, and nobody feels like they're juggling that side of things very well. We all put a lot of pressure on ourselves. But in terms of juggling the different elements of the business, that's definitely the biggest challenge of being a small business owner, as I'm sure you know. If I could focus 100% on the creative aspect of it all the time, I would. Quite honestly, as hard as design and architecture and creating a space is, most of the time that's the easiest part of my job for me because I love that, and that comes more naturally to me. And I could spend all day on a job site with builders and architects talking through an issue, figuring out a problem, figuring out the best way to solve for a really crazy building conundrum that was unforeseen. That I could do all day long. When it comes to figuring out how to run the business, how to market it, how to appropriately handle HR concerns and contracts and client issues. All of those things are more challenging. And the longer I do this, the more I feel comfortable tackling these challenges. But any entrepreneur, I think, struggles with juggling the different aspects.
No, I mean,
of a small
definitely,
business.
it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And
Yeah.
we thank everybody for tuning in here. We're on Facebook Live, the Taste Media Group Intelligence Series with Wendy LaBrum of Wendy LaBrum Interiors. And then getting back into the whole design aesthetic, would you say that you guys have a certain style, or do you kind of have to mesh your style with the client's wishes, per se?
Yes, I definitely have my own personal style that is exhibited maybe more in my own home than necessarily in every client's home. But I feel like it's our job to take what a client likes and give them the best version of it. And some of it changes along the way. As we said, we talked about the education process that we go through with clients. And sometimes from where they begin and what they say they like at the beginning completely changes as we go through the process. And they end up being drawn to completely different things than they were in the beginning. And that's very natural. So really it's our job to take what's inside of every client, what they like, what they feel, what they're drawn to, and give them the best version of it.
And then how does it make you feel though when you are able to take that photo that you're proud of, or you see your clients kind of aha moment, like, okay, this is all worth it?
Exactly, that's my favorite part of the job, especially doing a big installation, for instance, which is generally how we work. Our projects are usually 1 to 2 year engagements, and so there's so much work that goes in.
So you guys actually are usually from the get on the construction.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Exactly. And so during that time, there's so many things, there's so much work that's being done, but most of it is not, it's not tangible for the client yet. The client's not seeing the end result until the very end. So they're spending a lot of money for 2 years, both ordering product, paying for construction, paying for design fees, but they don't see anything until the end. So when they finally see it all come together, that's the most rewarding part of my job.
And we talked before about design being accessible, and you obviously have your HGTVs, these shows. I mean, I feel like it's one of the most popular genres out there. Do you think
Absolutely.
these shows help or hurt, or how do they kind of affect the marketplace, given that it's not always, it's edited?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think it helps in the sense that it makes people think more about design. It helps people care more about their houses. People, I feel like our generation want cool houses, whereas maybe our parents' generation, that wasn't something they were even thinking about. And so in that sense, I think it really helps. Where it hurts is it can set unrealistic expectations for, how long construction should take, what it would cost, all those things. I think it can be a little bit of a hindrance. If people go into the process thinking it's going to be like HGTV, in that sense, I would say it's a little bit detrimental. But overall, I think it's positive.
Promotion, right?
It's positive for the industry. It's positive for the design world. It helps foster and grow, the design industry. So
that's great.
I think overwhelmingly it's positive.
No, that's great advice. And then just as we wrap up here, like you said, design is so prevalent these days. You probably have a lot of students that are coming up through design schools. What advice would you give them in terms of creating their own style versus just trying to follow trends?
I would say everyone coming out of design school ideally loves design. I am a big believer in following what you are passionate about, and ultimately that will lead you to success. Because if you're not passionate about something, you're not going to want to do it, and you're not going to want to put in the time necessary to really be good at it. And so in terms of following trends, I think trends will come and go, and that's inherent in the industry. But I think it's important to cultivate a style for yourself that you feel is timeless, whether it's contemporary or it's traditional or it's somewhere in between. It's a mix of both. Cultivate a look that is going to stand the test of time, and cultivate a style for yourself. And your style will change over time. I started more traditional. I'm probably more contemporary now. And you change and you evolve, and everybody does, and that's a natural part of the process.
And then just in terms of the process from starting your own business, getting your first couple clients, I mean, at what point did you realize like this is something that I can kind of that can be sustainable and keep me moving forward?
I started small, like most small businesses do. I started taking on projects, that were one room at a time. And then, as we built our network and we built a client base, and then one room became a house, small house, and then maybe the next project was a bigger house, and then it became really big projects. And that happens over time. And so you have to have patience, and you have to work hard. And I always say that you have to have a really low diva quotient. There's not really, I think, a lot of, if you look at some of the famous designers who can be divas because they've been at this for decades. But
you gotta humble yourself a little in the beginning.
Exactly. You can't go into it a diva. And I feel like even now, 11 years in, I always say I have a low diva quotient.
That's awesome.
Because clients are allowed to be the divas, but I work in a client services business. So
that's great advice. That's
you have to
low diva quotient. That's the advice. That's the intelligence that we are conveying on this video here on Facebook Live. Well, Wendy, thank you so much for your time here.
Thank you for having me.
This afternoon. Thanks to for everyone for tuning in. So this week you're on Thanksgiving, other people's houses. Realize that there is a whole industry of interiors out there that is ever growing. So Wendy, thanks again for your time. Thanks to everybody for watching, and we will be back next week.